And Vincent Goodwill stopping by. And thank you so much for taking our call. I love seeing you on the other side of the Zoom. What do you think of Shadora Sanders in New York? That's kind of sexy, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. I think we get to see more Deion Sanders, which is always a positive thing with Prime in front of the mic. I just wonder, is Shadora a little too on the skinny side with the offensive line problems that the Giants have? I don't want that man to get folded.
Yeah, no kidding. He's going to have to hit the weight room and a couple Five Guys stopovers on the way. But it would be great, and you're right, you can always use, it's like more cowbell. You can always use more Deion.
I like that.
You can take that. Give me credit.
As long as Deion isn't coaching the Giants, that would be a disaster.
No, that would be cray.
Suzy and Vince, so Brockman and I, what's up, Vince? Brockman and I saw Shador down in New Orleans, and Brockman can attest, he's bigger than you think.
Bigger than you think, Vincent. Bigger than you think.
Yeah. I thought he was a linebacker walking around until I got to this. And I was like, oh, that's Shador.
Really?
Yeah, he's
a big guy.
He's bigger than you think he is, for sure.
Is he bigger than Jaden Daniels?
Wider.
Diesel-wise, yeah.
A little wider.
Yeah. And mind you, he had a sweatsuit on. Maybe he was Hans and Franz in it.
I was going to say, did he have a fat suit underneath it just to bulk up?
But he looked, he's a solid 6'2", 6'3", looked like he was about, Brockman, 220, 225?
I don't know. He looked bigger than I expected him to be, but, maybe, I don't know.
Also, as we're sitting here talking, Vincent, we're going to talk basketball in a second, but you just walked into this one. As we're talking about Brock Purdy and paying him, put Brock Purdy next to Shador, and I think Shador would look huge, right? I mean, I always think of Brock Purdy as and he's not as small as you think he is either, but Shador Sanders, I mean, I love the idea of him being in New York because I think it's the perfect spot for him. Just like Luka's in the perfect spot for him. Do you see what I did there?
Ugh,
that was sweet.
That is a segue.
Damn it, I didn't do the glasses again. Another Bryant opportunity out the door. Vincent, read your article, which of course is always spot on, but I mean, so much chatter behind the scenes with this trade. Jeannie Buss was on the show a couple days ago. She mentioned that she knew 2 weeks out. What's your takeaway, number one, from the trade, and then number two, from the first meeting?
Well, I think the first meeting, I'll start there. The first meeting, it felt, guys, like a playoff game. But it was like a playoff game for an audience of one. It was weird because LA is so big and it's cavernous and everybody knows it's like the place you want to go for a big event, right? Like a championship sort of fight. But Luka Doncic is the only person with beef over there. Everybody else is happy, that he's in LA with the exception of Anthony Davis. I will tell you this, the chance of thank you, Nico, while you're playing the thank you, Anthony Davis video seemed a little weird to me. Yeah. I don't know about y'all, that type of thing. But as far as the trade itself, I think we're still sort of getting with the idea that the Dallas Mavericks said, you know what, Luka, despite all the things that you've meant to us, and you could have been the next Dirk Nowitzki, another 20-year guy, there are some things that we saw with you that we did not feel like would be rectified over the next couple of years, over the next few months, whatever the communication breakdown was between the two. I don't think it's just about Luka Doncic and drinking beer and stuff like that. It's usually more than that, right? It's never as simple as it seems. And the Lakers are just the benefactors because the Lakers always seem to benefit from, everybody else's misfortune. It's funny how stars just seem to matriculate their way to Los Angeles. It's coincidental, right?
I mean, he just happened to find himself at the other end of the 10. I don't know how that happened. And you look at what the Lakers are doing, and this couldn't have just dropped into Rob Pelinka's lap.
Yeah, it did. Now, here's what happened. The one thing that people, I think, are missing when you're talking about the Dallas Mavericks, they were not looking to start over. I think if you're looking to start over and you want to trade Luka for whatever reason you're disillusioned with him, then you open it up to the entire league and you say, give me your best offer. I want players and draft picks. That's not where the Dallas Mavericks sit. They sit having just gone to the NBA Finals and feeling like they know what the formula is to win an NBA championship with bigs on the front line and shot making on the perimeter. Now, with Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson, you're wondering, do they have the offensive firepower to make up for everything that Luka was not going to bring? And does Anthony Davis do that? Anthony Davis is a top 10 player in the NBA. We are treating him like he is chopped liver. It is the most amazing thing in the world that we are looking at Anthony Davis like he is just like some regular dude. Now, it doesn't help that he's not playing right now. It does not help that he routinely has gotten hurt throughout the course of his career. But you can see the thought of, if you're Dallas and you still want to contend in the meantime, in the next 2 to 3 years, and I tend to believe in today's NBA, you cannot plan for 4 or 5 years down the line. You can only plan for today. With the salary caps and everything else and the way that the league moves faster than ever, you can only plan in 2 or 3 year increments. And I think that's where Dallas is looking. And they thought that Luka Doncic, with his habits, with his weight, with whatever he had going on, was not going to change those things for this team to maximize on this 2 to 3 year window. And now he becomes, quote unquote, the Lakers problem.
And at age 25, I mean, we're not talking about a guy towards the end of his career. We're talking about a guy who is 25 years old. I heard a report somewhere that they were concerned about a catastrophic health. He was building toward a catastrophic health crisis. And it seems to me like, why wouldn't you then sit him down? And do you know anything about interventions with him or conversations? Because we were talking about it earlier. Vlade Divac played until he was 750 years old, and he smoked a pack before, during, and after a game. So what could have happened that was so crazy in Dallas that we're hearing all this rumor and conjecture about a possible health crisis at 25?
I think sometimes, though, the rhetoric can be a little strong, but I believe this. In today's NBA, where the money has gotten exponentially greater for superstars, franchises are going to make very difficult decisions and say, if we cannot have a level of influence and agency with you when you are making $30 million or $40 million, we can't say anything to you if we're going to give you $70 million annually for the next 5 years. He was on track to sign the biggest contract in the history of the NBA. And remember, the money is guaranteed. There isn't going to be any outs. They may be out in the contract where there's a player option. Usually it's not going to be a team option in deals like this. So the player winds up holding all the power. And if something comes up where player X wants to leave, not only do you have a harder time trading him because you have to match dollar for dollar, but it also tilts the balance of the player-franchise relationship in such a way that teams don't want to deal with that. Now, you may say, and I may say, player X is worth all of the headache. They don't come around too often. No matter what you say about Luka Doncic, he carried one team to the Western Conference Finals, and he carried another team to the NBA Finals. You deal with the headache. Like, it's almost like, lack of a better phrase, when you're in a relationship, the more beautiful the woman, the more willing you are to overlook her flaws. Apparently, these flaws were too much for the Dallas Mavericks to overlook, and they decided to get out of the Luka Doncic business before he got super expensive and even more untenable to handle.
Wow. What are we overlooking? Oh, you have a comment, TJ? I thought you said something over there. I thought you were going to chime in. Maybe it was about the ladies.
I was just listening.
Just listening about the ladies.
I can.
What are we missing in the association because we're so busy talking about this?
You know what? We're missing some great stories. I think this season you've had the Luka saga. Not even the saga, right? Because that sort of happened in the den of night where it's on a Saturday night and I'm texting people and I'm like, nah, this can't actually be true. And that was just the next thing on top of the last thing, which was the Jimmy Butler stuff or the Kevin Durant stuff. And we wound up getting so inundated with player movement and transactions and drama that you wind up missing it. You're looking around and you're saying, wait, Oklahoma City is really good. The Cleveland Cavaliers, a Rust Belt team that has not won a playoff series in 30 years on a team that does not have LeBron James on it, is the best team in the league. The Boston Celtics, even though they lost last night in Detroit, where I live, to the other hot team in the NBA, the Detroit Pistons, like, they're on track to repeat. Like, you wind up looking and you get so inundated with the drama that the NBA loves to manufacture and loves to talk about, that there's great basketball that we're missing. And this is right about the time of year, right before March Madness, right before the playoffs begin, that you're really starting to dive in and say, wait, who's leading the MVP race? Who's leading the standings now? And then you start diving into the basketball because there's no more trade drama to talk about. And thank goodness there's no more trade drama to talk about. This is exhausting.
How good is the East?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't know how good the East is because I don't trust the New York Knicks.
Right.
I don't know if you guys do.
Nope.
Nope.
Like I knew someone was coming. I knew someone was chiming in.
I
don't
trust
the New York
that
Knicks.
team that beat Boston last night more than the Knicks, Vinny.
I am trying to take the regional bias, the recency bias. I am a child of Detroit. But I tend to believe that if the New York Knicks and Detroit Pistons play in a playoff series, the New York Knicks are going home. And unfortunately for me, I like spending playoff games at Madison Square Garden. It's one of the most magical places on
I love
earth
that place
to watch
so
a
much.
playoff game. But the team is not befitting of the stage. I can't name their seventh best player. And normally you don't have to name a team's seventh best player. But when you're dealing with a team that's constantly hurt, you need to know who these guys are because they're going to wind up playing heavy minutes late in playoff series. And the Knicks don't have a great defense. They have a bad defense at the point of attack and they have a bad defense at the rim. That is usually not a recipe for success in the NBA playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks are old. The Cleveland Cavaliers, we don't know if they're going to ascend to the next level. And the Boston Celtics have kind of been in a malaise, even though they've had a good record this year. I'll tell you this, the Celtics will not walk through the Eastern Conference like they did last year. I think that's a good thing for the NBA, but I'm not sure how good the Eastern Conference is. It's compelling. I'm not sure if it's good.
All right, so let's keep chopping this up. You mentioned on Yahoo Sports that Anthony Edwards is not the face of the NBA. So then who is?
I don't know, because you would want Anthony Edwards, to be the face of the NBA. He's got the charisma. He's got the game. He's got like an exciting game. I think that's one thing that we miss when we're talking about why isn't Nikola Jokic the face of the NBA? Why isn't Jason Tatum the face of the NBA? You not only have to have an effective game, but you have to have an exciting game, an awe-inspiring game that kids can gravitate to and that you want to actually pay your hard-earned money to see on a Tuesday night when it's really, really cold outside. Anthony Edwards has all of those things with the exception of he doesn't want the responsibility that comes with being the face of the NBA. There's a lot that goes into that. You have to be an ambassador for the game. You have to speak out on, or at least comment on, greater issues tangentially related to the game. Like, we don't think of LeBron James as just being the great basketball player that he's been throughout the course of his career. We think of him as being, man, we've stuck microphones in this man's face for the better part of 20 years, asking him questions from everything from the serious to the mundane, and he's had to carry the mantle in that way also while living an exemplary life off the basketball floor, because when you are carrying the mantle of the league, you saw with Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Julius Erving, Michael Jordan, all those guys, they had to project a certain image of carrying the league with your family and the people you put around you. Sometimes that weight is very heavy for a guy like Anthony Edwards, who's 23 years old, who's still growing into himself. He's seen some social media things that we don't necessarily have to talk about here. I think it's a great sense of self-awareness, Suzy, that he says, you know what? I just want to play basketball. Unfortunately, the league needs someone to take on the mantle because they don't have anyone right now, aside from those old guys who are going to retire at some point.
And Vincent, all I could think about when I read that on your great column was Kobe Bryant wanted it every single second. And when I was covering that team from 2000 to 2003, he would have taken that mantle the minute he could have. And the power struggle that existed, and then the beautiful harmony that existed after that with him and Shaquille O'Neal. And I read that, and I thought Kobe would take him by the shoulders and shake him and say, son, it's time for you to grow up and be a man. Because that's what you should want.
It's, you know what unfortunately has happened? There's been a disconnect. And Suzy, you could write a book on those 2000 to 2003 Lakers. I'm sure you got some stories, some compelling stories about those guys.
Oh, I got stories. You want to get together and, we'll have a hookah and we'll talk about it?
Hookah and bourbon. I like it.
That's right.
I think what has happened, Suzy, there's been a generational disconnect with these players making the exorbitant amounts of money that they have very well earned, right? With the TV deals, the marketing, everything else that comes with being a professional basketball player. They don't understand and realize that this has been built off of the backs of players who will never receive these type of paydays, that built off of the Magic Johnsons and then Michael Jordans and then so on and so on. The money has gotten greater because the players have built so much equity in the public that you can now invest in players. You can now invest in their brands. You can now marry them with Nike and with Sprite and some of these other brands that are known very well to Americana. And you put those faces there, and then you put the brand deals with NBC and Amazon and everybody else. Like those deals are because it's not just your game. It's about the fact that you have to carry the league. You have to represent and market the NBA. Like remember 1992 in the Olympics and Michael Jordan carrying the American flag and draping it over his shoulder because he didn't want the Reebok thing there. Nobody realized it was because he's a Nike guy. We just remember the image and what that created and how that married Michael Jordan with USA sport and how he became a global icon because of that. Who has the great vision to say, this is our responsibility to leave this behind for the next guy and not just cash in off of everything that's been built before we got here?
Yeah, I mean, Chris, what do you think? I mean, I can't think of it. I'm just trying to think, going through the Rolodex of NBA players, like who's willing to step in, and it can't be LeBron James at age 40, because I'm just curious. I'll ask you one more question, then I'll bring Chris in it. But, you know, this trade was clearly meant, and if it did fall into Rob's lap, like, congratulations. But LeBron can't play forever. So this last minute, like last push. He needs help. He's playing at all defensive levels. But, God, I mean, who's going to pick up the mantle?
That's the great question.
I'm not convinced
we didn't
that
know.
Luka's staying in L.A. after this.
Well, here's the thing, guys. The Los Angeles Lakers since 1975, since the year they acquired Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 74, they have gone a grand total of 7 seasons without having a first ballot Hall of Famer on the marquee. Like there were the years that Magic Johnson was retired with HIV, and then Shaq and Kobe came. And then there were the years in the wilderness after Kobe Bryant retired before LeBron James showed up. It's been 7 years and 47 years that the Lakers haven't had that guy. So now you bring in Luka Doncic, who's going to carry the mantle, presumably, when LeBron James retires. He may never retire. Like the way he's playing, it's like this man's going to play until he's 80 years old. We're going to be having this conversation 10 years from now. How long is LeBron going to play? He can't play until he's 60. He might just, right? But I think from the standpoint of the Lakers needing that next torchbearer, it's good for the league. We just don't know, how well Luka's going to handle it. I'll tell you this, and this could get me in trouble here.
Oh, good. I like that.
Cooper Flagg out of Duke could very well be the next guy. He's in Duke. He's a nice strapping young man. And, let's be honest, the league wouldn't be opposed to having a white superstar who carries the league. They would like that. And it wouldn't be such a bad thing because we can't depend on LeBron and KD and Steph. And Steph Curry came out of nowhere. Like he had the story and the pedigree, but we didn't know Steph Curry was going to turn into the greatest shooter of all time and have this great story that people could sort of gravitate to because of his family, because of his lineage, because of his size. I think the next guy is going to be someone we don't see coming. I think part of that is a beautiful thing, though.
Wow. So you're saying that Cooper's ready to plant the flag. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. I'm buying. If you're selling Cooper Flag stock, I'm buying it.
Before I let you go, this is a quick one. Who's in the NBA Finals?
It is my nightmare of flights. It is the Boston Celtics and the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Wow.
Ooh, I thought you were going to say
can
Lakers.
Delta get direct flights there? Because I don't think they have any.
You almost said Lakers. You wanted to.
I did not. I most certainly did not.
Wow.
I love LA, just not in June. Send me to LA in January. That's cool. LA in June, y'all can keep it.
Connecting flights are in your future. Sorry to hear that. At least you're not going to be on the Patriots plane and have like ashtrays. So we got that going for you.
But no Wi-Fi.
No Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi and ashtrays.
Meanwhile, RKK no doubt is flying in a really nice plane. I'm just saying. Vincent, thank you so much. Love having you on. I think you're the greatest, and your shoe collection behind you is pretty epic too.
Hey, I appreciate you. Tell your husband I said hello.
I will. He'll be on in the next hour, but until then, this baby is mine.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S. Search Rich Eisen Show on your Roku device for daily replays.